Welcome to BFC Live, the daily video and podcast series of Business of Cannabis. BFC Live highlights the companies, brands, people, and trends driving the global cannabis sector. Find out all that we do at businessofcannabis.com. Coming up on this BFC Live, we connect with the team from Story, Karina Karasev and Afshin Musavian, talking about a survey they did among parents talking about cannabis. Karina, Afshin, thanks for being here. And by the way, look, not only are we wearing the same thing, look.
Yay.
Story here, story there, story everywhere. Thank you for making time. We wanted to connect with you to see how things are going at Story. We saw an interesting survey you guys posted and we wanted to check in on that. How are things?
Well, thanks for having us again, Jay. It's always good to be on Business of Cannabis. Things are going well. I mean, we're excited to see Ontario open up. We're excited to see retailers open up. It's been a long time waiting around and seeing how these businesses who really endured so much hardship over the past year are finally getting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So we're excited for them, and naturally that means more opportunities for us.
Yes. And I was saying right before we came on that we were driving in Toronto over last weekend when the patios finally opened, and it was like a little bit like Mardi Gras on Ossington. It was good to see, but also like it's weird to be around lots of other people. So it's going to be some interesting days ahead, but I think good for retail, good for cannabis, good for people's sort of mental and emotional health, and good for Story, presumably, because people are going to want to buy more cannabis, store more cannabis, use more cannabis, buy more cannabis, store more cannabis, use more cannabis.
Yeah, I think that they've really gotten to try out what it's like to properly store their cannabis at home, but everyone's been dying to figure out how to take that cannabis on the go. And we're seeing more and more sort of posts of our tubes and pods in the wild, which is making us really, really happy. It's been a long time.
Well, we've taken it in the wild because I guess I didn't even think that's how I would use it. I didn't even know because I have it, but like, you know, 1 or 2 joints in the tubes are so easy to carry around, and it looks cool when you bring them out when you're somewhere else.
Exactly, and it also makes good for ashtray essentially. If you wanted to have a joint put aside, put away, or actually one of our team members was kayaking, and he's taking it on his kayak because the tube floats in case he drops it, and it's water resistant. So those are good things for him to know now that he's taking his joints out into the wild.
I didn't know that. But now I'm going to make new plans for the summer. What are the other things, Karina, I want to ask you, because we obviously follow what you at Story are doing. And we saw a survey, I think it was around Mother's Day, and now we're right there, Father's Day. Talk a little bit about, because it was about parents and cannabis, something that's near and dear to my heart. Talk a little bit about what you found from that survey about how parents sort of use, consume, think about, don't hide cannabis.
Yeah, we really wanted to understand the sentiment and how the cannabis conversation is happening at home. We always talk about that wine is at people's houses and beer's in the fridge, and kids know not to go and touch it. But cannabis, everybody's still kind of hiding it in their sock drawer. So really what we wanted to understand is how moms and how parents could be having that conversation with kids. Some of the results were really interesting that actually came out. So 87% of moms said they have talked to their kids about cannabis, so they've had the conversation. 59% of them said that it's important to have this conversation, and 30% of them, which was also really awesome, that they're looking for informative content to have that conversation. They don't really know what to start, which is great for us because we put out a lot of that content. So the sentiment that we found is it's positive. People are talking to their kids about cannabis. They're not ignoring it. But then when we ask them, where do you store your cannabis at home? 57% of them still said they hide it. It's hidden in their home. And then we dug a little bit deeper about understanding, okay, why and what are you concerned about your kids knowing you consume cannabis? And almost 20% of moms said, I'm concerned that my kids know that I consume cannabis just because they're going to go and tell their teacher or their principal or one of their friends, and now the play date's going to be canceled because they think not a mom's consume cannabis. So the results are really interesting that it's a conversation at home and it's inclusive and parents are comfortable having their conversations or looking for credible information, how to start that conversation, but it's still stigmatized when it's outside the home.
Fear of being judged is really what the biggest concern is. Judged by their colleagues and peers and neighbors, and if they're sort of doing play dates for the kids. Or one of the other ones was sort of the fear of the kids telling the grandparents, and then now you're going to have your grandparents definitely stepping in to see if the environment's safe for the kids. And these are the same homes that allow parents that step outside in the balcony or in their yard to have a cigarette and a glass of wine, right?
Yeah, or have vodka lying around, which is like far more deadly, and doesn't even have a childproof top and all those things. It makes me think that I live in a bubble. I mean, I'm a dad that is about to go upstairs with a cannabis hat on, so I'm not sure I fit the norm, but it is interesting, and I wonder, I don't know how we can extrapolate that, but it is interesting sort of insight to sort of how parents are thinking about it, but also the stigma of the use and the hiding and all that. But I wonder how that plays out at retail, right? Because as things open up, it's going to be impossible to ignore that there's just way more cannabis stores than there were pre-COVID, and how that stigma about like walking into a store actually plays out, because the stores are great, like they're super welcoming, like the staff is friendly, but it has nothing to do with that. It's like just the stepping foot in and having someone see you step in.
Yeah, we actually spoke to one of the moms who did our survey, and it was exactly what you're talking about. She was walking to pick up the kids from school, and she stopped at a legal cannabis retail store and had the bag with her as she was picking up her 2 kids from school. And as she's getting on school property, she realized, oh shit, I probably shouldn't have this. How are people going to look at me? So she's like, I literally crumpled it up to try to hide it. And the question that I asked her, it's obviously in Ontario, I was like, so would you feel like that if you had a couple bottles of LCBO fix? No, I wouldn't. And she was shocked by even her own reaction. No, I wouldn't care. I'm having people over, I want wine. I would never feel like I was getting judged. But for cannabis, she literally, I crunched it up and she's like, I didn't have a bag. So when she picked up her son, it's like I took his backpack and put it in his backpack as fast as I can.
Yeah.
So exactly what you're talking about.
Well, it's funny because there was a number of times over the past couple of years, maybe after one of the lift shows, that everybody had a hexo bag, like a hexo canvas bag, which became the swim bag for the kids because we had a lot of them, and like put a wet towel in there. Who cares? But it was, they're walking around with hexo bags, and people just started saying, "Oh, you're never jaded," which was their tagline at the time. So it's like, oh, it's the never jaded swim bag. But it is interesting. But like, I mean, we could lament that there's stigma. At the same time, that same mom did go to a legal cannabis store, bought cannabis, and then felt judged, as opposed to feeling judged and not going in. So like, I think there's progress there, and I think this is all a process of normalization. I think we're getting there, but not unimportantly, like there's actually beautiful things to store it in. There's interesting ways to use it and keep it safe and keep it fresh, all those things, and keep it dry in a canoe too. But it is interesting because I think we've been talking for years now, and like the stigma, of course, is going to still be there. But I think the more stores open, the more people use it, the more people use it publicly, the stigma drives down. And I mean, I'd like your thoughts. Like, I think we'll continue to see that. So we look forward to following your story as things continue to unfold. But thank you for sharing the data. Thank you for sharing the insight. Thank you for sharing the progress on Story. And we will see you at a cannabis retailer very soon.
Sounds great. Thanks for having us again, Jay.
Great. Thanks. That was Karina Karasev and Afshin Musavian of Story. If you like this podcast, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you ever heard the show. It helps support the work we do. We're able to do what we do because of our ongoing partners, including Alterna Savings, Cannabis at Work, Cannabis Benchmarks, Can Delta, Gallagher, Headset, and Torque and Mains. Find out all that we do at businessofcannabis.com.